What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In this video today, we're going to build a GPT-powered financial assistant chatbot or stock analysis assistant chatbot. So let us get right into it. Alright, so this is what we're going to end up with in this video today, a web application with a stock analysis chatbot assistant here as a motivation up front. The basic idea is that we ask a question related to the stock market, to current stock prices, to technical analysis, and that we instruct this assistant to do certain things with the data. And even though this is GPT powered, we have access to real-time information. So this is not something that works with data up until 2021. This is not trained on some static data that is historical. We're accessing current information from the Yahoo Finance API. So I can ask a simple question like, what is the current stock price of Apple? I don't even have to provide the ticker symbol. I can just say Apple. And you can see the current stock price of Apple, AAPL, is this. And this is the current stock price of Apple. Now, maybe not accurate to the millisecond, but definitely today's stock price and the stock price of this hour at least, or minute. We can also ask a question that's not as direct. So I can ask a question like, what is the current stock price of Bill Gates' main company? And then it's going to recognize, okay, this is Microsoft, and the current stock price of Microsoft, which is one of the main companies associated with Bill Gates, is that. Now I can say, okay, what is the 10-day exponential moving average for that stock? Now, hopefully it's going to associate that with Microsoft and not with Apple. There you go. The 10-day exponential moving average for Microsoft is approximately this. And I can do the same thing with a couple of different indicators. So for example, what's the MACD of it? And then enter. Now we can see that this is not exactly what we're expecting here as an answer. So we can actually say the answer to this question should actually return three values: the MACD, the signal, and the histogram. So if it makes mistakes, we can just say, okay, correct the mistakes, and then you can see we get all three values here. So this is GPT working behind the scenes with actual data, with functions that I have defined. And I can also go ahead and say, okay, plot the stock price of Microsoft. And then I will get a matplotlib plot here in the web interface. So you can see this is the Microsoft stock price over the last year. And yeah, I can do stuff like that. I can also say, for example, what is the stock price of the leading GPU company? Now, the information about the leading GPU company is from 2021 because I don't have a function accessing the internet researching the leading GPU company. So if for some reason the leading GPU company in 2023 right now is no longer NVIDIA but something else, it wouldn't know that, but the stock price it's still accurate. So the current stock price is that, and I can say, who are its competitors? Question mark. And then I will get hopefully a list of the competitors of NVIDIA. And then I can say, okay, plot the stock price of the first one. And then hopefully it plots the stock price of AMD. There you go. So this is what we're going to build in this video today. Alright, so this is going to be a quite comprehensive project in this video today. We're going to have multiple different components interacting with one another. We're going to have functions calling the Yahoo Finance API to get real-time stock data. We're going to have functions doing some basic technical analysis. We're going to have functions plotting stock prices. We're going to have to communicate with the OpenAI API so that we can actually use GPT. We're going to have to define functions in a way that the function calling API can understand them and call them. And we're going to have to build a web application around all of this using Streamlit. So because of that, we're going to have to install a couple of packages. First, we're going to open up the command line and we're going to type pip install. And we're going to install, first of all, OpenAI. We're going to install pandas. We're going to install matplotlib. We're going to install yfinance. and we're going to install Streamlit. So those are the packages we're going to need today. I have all of them installed already. And in addition to that, we also need to have the API key in our directory. So what you want to do is you want to create a new file here. You can call it whatever you want. For example, API_key. And in here, you want to put your API key from the OpenAI platform. So you want to go to your account, you want to go to view API keys, and you want to create a new API key or use an existing one. And this is going to authenticate you with the OpenAI platform. And there you have to, and there you can then use the GPT API. And of course, you have to spend some credits. But again, I think that, I don't know if it's still the case, but you got for some time, you got free credits when you signed up for OpenAI. If this is no longer the case, it's also not that much of a big deal because for playing around with this a little bit, you spend like 2 cents or something. And if you want to use this on a regular basis, unless you use this heavily all the time, you're also not going to spend more than 1 or 2 cents per session where you use this tool, or maybe 5 cents, I don't know. So you want to put your API key here. In my case now, I already did this. Of course, I'm not going to show the content of the file because then you would have my API key and you would be able to use my credits. But I have the API key file now in the same directory as my Python script. And I'm going to start with a couple of imports. I'm going to import JSON. I'm going to import OpenAI. I'm going to import, pandas as PD. I'm going to import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. I'm going to import Streamlit as ST, and I'm going to import yfinance as YF. So those are the basic imports that we need. And now we're going to start by defining the functions that we want to use. So those are basic Python functions that you can also call manually. And we're going to provide GPT with access to those functions. So the functions are going to be quite straightforward: downloading stock data, calculating some basic indicators, and then basically providing those functions to GPT so that it can decide how and when to use them. Just before we do that, briefly, I'm going to say OpenAI.API_key equals, and I'm going to load the key from the file. So I'm going to say API_key in reading mode, and I'm going to read the API key here into the OpenAI package so that we are authenticated. And then we're going to define a couple of functions here. So we're going to start with a function get_stock price. And the idea here is, by the way, if you want to have a very basic introduction into function calling with GPT in general, I have a video on that as well on my channel where I show you how to do function calling in the first place. And today we're going to do something more advanced. So we're going to actually build a project using function calling. But I'm going to go through the steps again. So the basic idea is we define Python functions, and instead of just calling those functions ourselves, we let ChatGPT decide how to call the function. So we create a function getStockPrice, we provide the ticker parameter, and then we assume that ChatGPT is going to enter the right ticker symbol. So for example, AAPL or MSFT. We trust ChatGPT to know what the ticker symbol is. Now, of course, if the ticker symbol of a company changes, for example, a company is renamed, I don't know when Facebook renamed itself to Meta. I don't know if that was before 2021, but if that is something that ChatGPT doesn't know and the ticker symbol changed, then of course it's not going to find the stock price for that company. And you would have to do some manual description there. So for example, you can say in the description of the function later on, careful, Facebook is no longer FB, it's Meta or something like that. I don't even know if that's true. But yeah, we define the function, and the basic thing that we need to do here is we need to return a string. This is important. All the functions need to return strings because, of course, ChatGPT is going to answer with text. So we ask something with text and we get a text as a response. So even though the stock price is a number, we don't actually want to use the number. We want to use the string version of the number, because ChatGPT is not going to do calculations with the information. It's going to incorporate the text into a response. So return string version of yfinance.ticker, then the ticker symbol here as a parameter. We want to get the history. Let's say period is 1 year. We get the last position. So the most current position, -1, and we want to have the closing price of that. This is the basic function, and this already would be enough of a function to pass to GPT, and then it would be able to give us the stock price for anything we ask for. So the prompt, give me the stock price of the company owned by Bill Gates, would already work with this function alone. Then we're going to also have a basic calculation function. So calculate _SMA, simple moving average. We're going to have a ticker and a window here, so a time frame, and we're going to say data equals YF ticker history, and then period is going to be 1 year. And we're going to, again, get the close price here. And then what we want to do is want to say return string version again of the calculation, data rolling, then the window is going to be equal to window. We get the mean here because we're doing the average, the simple moving average, and we're getting the last position here. So the current X day moving average, whatever X is. So what's the problem here? Function name should be lowercase. Yeah, no, not in this case. Then what we can do is we can actually copy this, and we can also introduce the exponential moving average, so EMA, and here we're going to just say data.ewm, and we're going to say span equals window, adjust equals false, and then we get mean and ilog -1. So those are just some technical analysis metrics or indicators here. You can, of course, implement whatever you like. Whatever function you implement that you could call yourself, ChatGPT can call it as well. So if you want to do something like plotting the SMA or plotting the SMA and the stock price, just define a function for it, ChatGPT can use it then. So you're completely flexible here. Then we're also going to do the relative strength index, RSI. We're going to have a ticker, and we're going to say data equals that again. Data equals that again. And then we're going to say delta equals, and I'm not going to explain here all the technical analysis stuff because that's not the focus of this video today. If you don't know what these things are, you probably don't want to use them anyway. So just implement whatever you think is useful to you. So maybe you also don't want to do this with stock prices. You want to do this with crypto. Actually, I think this also works with crypto right out of the box because the Yahoo Finance API also has information about crypto. But maybe you want to change this. Maybe you want to just do a personal finance assistant that keeps track of your expenses and income and stuff like that. But that's up to you. So up is going to be delta clip, and then we're going to pass lower equals 0. Then down is going to be -1 times delta clip. Upper equals 0. And then we want to say EMA up equals, and then up EWM com equals 14 minus 1. 13, but I just want to write it as 14 minus 1. Adjust equals false, and mean. I want to copy that. EMA down dot EWM. That's it. And then we want to say RS equals EMA up divided by EMA down. And we want to return the string version of the following calculation: 100 minus 100 divided by 1 plus the relative strength, and from this the last position, ilog -1. That is the RSI. And finally, for the indicators, we also want to implement the MACD, moving average convergence divergence. So calculate _MACD ticker, and here again we get the data as we did before. And we want to say that the short _EMA is going to be equal to data.ewm. Span is going to be 12. Adjust is going to be false. mean, then the long EMA is going to be the same thing here with 26. That's just the basic formula for MACD. And then the MACD itself is going to be the short EMA minus the long EMA. And then the signal of the MACD is going to be equal to MACD. Here again, the exponential moving average of the MACD itself, the 9-day exponential moving average, adjust equals false. And by the way, you can also use a technical analysis library if you want to. You don't have to implement those indicators yourself. You can also use something like, what was the package? I think there was a package for technical analysis. I don't remember the name, but I have a video on it on my channel. And then we want to have the histogram, MACD underscore histogram, and that is MACD minus signal. And what we want to return here is a formatted string, and it's going to say MACD, actually in curly brackets here, MACD last position, and then comma, and we want to have signal last position, and then we want to have the MACD histogram last position. And the important thing here is, of course, to specify to ChatGPT what the output looks like, because ChatGPT only gets 3 values. It needs to know that those are actually the MACD, the signal, and the MACD histogram in that order. Otherwise, it's not going to know what to do with them. And the final function that we're going to implement here is the plot underscore stock price function. So we get a ticker, and what we do is we say data. Actually, we can copy this again. We get the stock data. And what we want to do now is we want to create a figure. The figure is going to have a figure size of, let's say, 10 and 5. And we want to say PLT plot. We want to plot the data index, which is the date, and the data close price. Actually, we don't want to use close here, but the whole data. So data index, data close, PLT title is going to be the ticker stock price over last year. And by the way, of course, you can introduce new parameters here like start date, end date, and then you can specify that ChatGPT should also be able to plot only a specific time frame. So you can do that if you want to. We're going to keep it simple here though. So PLT X label is going to be the date. PLT Y label is going to be the stock price. And then maybe we should specify that this is in US dollars. And then we want to say PLT grid, true, PLT say figure. Because of course we don't want to show it. We don't want to show it here in the command line. We want to save the figure so that we can actually display it in Streamlit. So we want to save the figure to stock.png, and we want to close PLT. So those are the functions now, and all we need to do to make GPT use those functions is we need to define them in a list, and this list contains then dictionaries or, it's like a JSON file essentially, whether you want to call it dictionary or not. It's basically a list of function definitions. And again, if you want to have a basic introduction into that, I have a video on it, but I'm going to explain it here again. So functions is going to be equal to, and then we use square brackets to define a list. And in that list now we have dictionaries, so curly brackets. And each of those curly brackets here contains, first of all, the name of the function. So this is going to be, the first one is going to be get underscore stock price. And then we also have a description. And this is super important because the description basically tells ChatGPT what this function is. Now, the name also has some information, but the description is super important because it tells us how does this function actually work. ChatGPT does not look at the code. It doesn't read the code and recognize what the code is doing. It reads the description. So, for example, get stock price could also load a CSV file from the system. We don't know. We need to specify how this function works. Now, stock price is a simple function here, but in general, you need to specify with English sentences what this function does. So, for example, gets the latest stock price Because this is also the next thing, you know, do we get a series as a response? Do we get one value as a response? Do we just get one latest stock price? Or the one value that we get, is it on a specific day, or is it always the latest stock price? It cannot know that. So gets the latest stock price given the ticker symbol of a company. That's a very clear explanation here. And then we also want to say, and we also want to define the parameters. This is also important because we don't have to just describe the function. We can also describe parameters here, which helps ChatGPT even further to understand how everything works. And here again, we pass a dictionary where we have a key value pair type. The type of the ticker symbol is going to be an object. I'm just going to define it like that. We're going to have a property or multiple properties. So again, in a dictionary here, and it's going to be ticker. And here again, we have a dictionary, and we're going to say that the type of this one is a string. And come on, I'm constantly mistyping this semicolon. And we can describe it. This is important. So we can description of this parameter. What exactly is this parameter? So this is the ticker symbol, or maybe the stock ticker symbol for a company. And then we can also provide an example, for example, AAPL for Apple. And here, of course, you could also say as a comment FB, or something like note FB is renamed to Meta or something like that, if you want to. I'm not going to do it right now. But you can incorporate current information here in the description as well. And that is the basic structure. We can also now say that it's required, or we should say it's required. So we say required, and we define that the required parameters are the ticker. And this is how we define all the functions now. Now, I'm not going to type everything here from scratch now, because this would fill like, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes. Maybe 20 is too much, but 10 minutes of me just writing out the different definitions. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to go through them and explain them. So you can type them from the screen, and if something is a little bit more complicated, I'm going to explain it. So let me just copy this here from my prepared code that I already wrote. It's just a lot of typing work. It's not really complicated. So let me just copy this here into my clipboard. Hopefully this works now. So we add a comma here, or actually no, we add a comma here, and then we paste these definitions here. So let's go through them. This is what we just defined, and everything else works in the same way. So we have calculate SMA, description, calculate the simple moving average for a given stock price, for a given stock ticker and a window. Parameters, type object, properties, ticker, and window as separate parameters here. Type string, type integer, description, the stock ticker symbol, description, the time frame to consider when calculating the SMA. Both are required. And the same for the EMA, just with a different name. RSI has only the ticker. Actually, RSI does not take a window, right? So we can actually remove that. This is a wrong definition. We don't have a window here. And we also don't have a window here in the description. So again, calculate the RSI for a given stock ticker, type string, there you go, required, and then MACD, short window, long window, and then basically, actually, I don't, no, this is also wrong, because we don't actually pass the short and long window here. We just assume the default values of, what was it, 26 and 14 or 12? 12 and 26 are the default values. So for a given stock ticker, and we only have the ticker, and that calculates the MACD. And then finally, we have plot stock price, plot plot the stock price for the last year given a stock ticker symbol of a company, and that's it. So those are the definitions of the functions. This is everything ChatGPT gets from us to understand what are the functions I have and how can I call them, what do they do, what are the parameters, and what can I expect from them. And we take this list now, and what we do is we first of all create a dictionary available underscore functions, and we say that this is a dictionary where we map a string. So get stock price. Those are now the strings that we have here. They don't have to be the same, but in our case they are. And we map this to the get stock price function. So we don't call the function, we pass the function here. Then we have calculate SMA, calculate SMA. Then we can copy this, we can change S to E. Then we can copy this 2 more times, and we can change this to RSI, this to MACD, this to RSI, this to MACD. And finally, we can have also plot underscore stock underscore price map to plot stock price. All right. And then what we want to do is we want to use, we're now going to start building the Streamlit application, and we're going to keep track of the messages in the session state. So we're going to say if the key message, or messages actually, is not in streamlit.sessionState, we're going to create an empty list there. So we're going to say st session state, and then messages is going to be an empty list. We're going to start like that. Then we're going to say st title is going to be, and then let's say we're going to call this stock analysis chatbot assistant or something like that. And we're going to say that the user underscore input is going to be equal to st text input. So this is our text input field. We're going to have the prompt your input. And then with that user input, if we have user input, so when we enter something, we're going to process this input, we're going to send it to the OpenAI API, and we're going to process the output. So we're going to say here, try the following. So I'm going to say try pass, accept pass, so that we have the basic structure. And in the try, we're going to say st session state, and then messages is going to be equal, or actually we're going to append to it our new message. So we're going to append here the following dictionary role. This is important. This is the structure that GPT uses. The role is going to be the user. We have the user role, the assistant role, and the system role. User being us, assistant being GPT, and system being contextual information. And the content is going to be the user input as a text, in case it isn't a text. So that is what we append to the messages, and then we get a GPT response. So what we do now is we say response equals OpenAI.chatCompletion create, and in here now we define the model. Right now we can use GPT 3.5. Hopefully soon we will all be able to use GPT-4. So GPT-3.5-turbo -0613. And then what we do is we say messages equals, messages equals st.sessionState messages. And then we're going to say functions. So which functions can I call as ChatGPT? I can call the functions that were provided to me, which are these here, the function definitions, and the function call should happen automatically. So auto. Now the response message itself, response underscore message, will be equal to response, then choices, then 0, and message. So this is going to be the response message. And we're going to now check if the response message that we got from ChatGPT, if it contains a function call, then we're going to call a function, because not every time will it contain a function call. We can also use, I'm not sure if this is still running. No, it probably isn't. So my preview is not running anymore. Otherwise, I would have shown you. But we can also, of course, ask a question. Since we're connected to ChatGPT, we don't have to ask questions only about stock prices. I can also ask the question, what is Python, for example? And then it would not call a function. It would just give me an ordinary GPT response. So we only want to actually run something if we get a function call. So if response message has this function call field, then we want to call a function. How do we do that? We say the function underscore name is equal to response message, then the function call that we just saw exists, and the name of that function. So that is the name of the function. We now need to get the actual function. To get the arguments for the function, we're going to say function underscore arguments is going to be equal to JSON load from string, so load S, and then response message function call, and then we need to access the field arguments. And what we do then is we say if function name in, and we need to check if this is the get underscore stock underscore price, or if it is the calculate underscore RSI, or if it is the calculate MACD, or if it is the plot stock price. Why are we actually checking for those functions? Because those have only one parameter. So plot stock price. So those functions here only take a ticker. The other functions also take a window. So what we're going to do if we only get a ticker is we're going to say args dictionary. So args underscore dictionary is going to be equal to ticker being mapped to function args get ticker. Otherwise, we're going to say args underscore dictionary is going to be, actually we can copy this, but we also need to say that the window is going to be function args get, and then window. Actually, we can change this to an elif, and we can say if the function name in, just so we don't mess up some future functions that we implement. So calculate SMA and calculate EMA. So yeah, then we have also a window, and then we actually have to get the function, the actual function, not just the name that we need to call. So function underscore to underscore call is going to be equal to available functions. And then function name, this is what we had up here, this dictionary that maps the function name to the actual function. And then what we do is we get the function underscore response, which is going to be equal to function to call. And we unpack in that function the args dict, so the argument dictionary. Yeah. So we get it from here, we unpack it, we call the function, whatever it is. And then what we do is we say if the function name, if the function that we just called has the name plot stock price, then we need to do something different, because now we're not just getting a text response, we actually have to display an image, and the image is the stock image. So st_image stock.png. Of course, in quotation marks, because that is what we output here. Remember, we have the stock price function here that the plot stock price function here, and we save the figure stock PNG. So it's going to take that figure and it's going to display it in Streamlit, in the web application. Otherwise, if that is not what we're doing, so if we're not plotting, we're going to have to display an answer. So we're going to say st dot session state dot, or not dot, in square brackets here, messages. Want to append, of course, also the response from ChatGPT. So we append the response message here, the response message here, and we also want to say st session state messages append, and we want to append a dictionary here where we have another role. And this role is going to be a function. This is actually what was introduced with the function calling API. I'm going to say the function name is also listed here. So just that we have in the context that this function was executed and what the content of the response was. So content was whatever the function returned. So function response. This is important because for us to get a reasonable response, what we need is we need to have our prompt, we need to have the response from ChatGPT, or ChatGPT needs to map our query to a function. This function needs to be executed. We need to get the function response, but the function response is just a number. This function response needs to be fed again into ChatGPT to make it an actual response, to make it something that's actually readable to us. So we don't want to just get a number. We want to get an answer like the current stock price of MSFT is whatever, for example. So what we do here now is we say second underscore response is equal to OpenAI chat completion, one more time, create with the same model as before. So GPT-3.5-turbo 0613, and the messages are st session state messages, and then we want to display that. So st text, we want to display here second response messages dot append. And here we want to have role is assistant, so ChatGPT, and the content is, let me just scroll down a little bit, is response message content. And then st session state messages. Oh, sorry, okay. This is when you work with too much prepared code. What we want to have actually is, we want to have st text, and then we want to actually say that we want to display the second response here. So second response, messages, and then, no, again. Okay, I shouldn't look too much at my code here. I'm mistyping. Because that's actually the second line. This is what we want to store in the session state. So we want to get from the second response the response itself. We want to display it, and then we want to add to the session state messages that this response happened with a role assistant and so on. So what we actually want to do is we want to say st streamlit text second response, and to get the actual response, we get choices, we get 0. We get the message, and we get from this message the content. So that is what we display. Now we also want to say now st session state messages append, and now we want to append this context here. So we want to append that this answer happened. Role assistant content, and now we do the same thing again. So we do again second response, actually this thing here. So we copy this and we paste this here. That is the idea. Okay, so now we got it. And finally, what we do here is we say, so that is done now for this case. Let me just see. Yeah, this is if there was a function call. Otherwise, if there was no function call, what we do is we basically just we basically just output the response. So we say st text, and we get the response message. So this is now not the second response, since we don't have the second response. We get this response message here, and we just output the content. So just content, and we store this, of course, again in the session state. So st session state messages, and then we're gonna append to this one here the same way as above. Role is going to be the assistant. What's the problem here now? Oh yeah, needs to be a dictionary. Role is assistant, and the content is just response message content. I'm gonna give you an overview of everything in a second here, but that is basically what we want to do. And here, if something fails, we're gonna say st text try again. All right, so let's go through this again to explain how it works. But first of all, let me see if this actually works before I explain something that does not work. I'm going to open up a new terminal. I'm going to navigate to the directory that I'm working in. And now I'm going to say streamlit run main py. And let's just briefly see if it works before I explain one more time how everything works. What is the stock price of Apple? Try again. Okay, so what's the problem here? We do have some issue. Let's just say race. So exception SE, race E. Does this work? What is the stock price of Apple? The model does not exist because I'm using an equal sign. This has to be a dash, not an equal sign. So let's restart this again. What is the stock price of Apple? And we get a response. Okay, and what is the stock price of Bill Gates' company? Bill Gates. Okay, this is now a bad response from GPT, because it should associate that with Microsoft. Now, what's the problem here? List object has no attribute. Oh, append with 3 P's. This is down here. But this was a case now where we didn't get a function call because it figured that Bill Gates does not have a company. Maybe he doesn't have one because I don't know if he's still involved in Microsoft, but let's try again. What is the stock price of Bill Gates? Oh, now I sent the message without being, but now it recognizes it's Microsoft. Okay. The stock price of Bill Gates is Microsoft. Okay. Microsoft stock price. Plot this, please. And now it should plot okay, it plots ticker instead of the actual ticker. This is because this is probably not an F string. So we need to make this here an F string to actually have the ticker in it. Let's run this again. What is the stock price of Bill Gates' main company? Question mark. Then it's going to hopefully give us a stock price. Plot it, please. Then you can see Microsoft stock price. What is the 30-day EMA of it? What is the 30-day SMA of it? What is the MACD of it? Now, hopefully we get 3 values. Yeah, there you go. We get 3 values. And then what is the relative strength index of it? And then we should be done. All right. So let's go through the code one more time. The basic idea is, again, we authenticate with the OpenAI API. We define the functions that we want to use, just getting stock price, calculating some metrics here, plotting the stock price, saving it as an image. Those are the functions that we have at our disposal. We define that these functions exist. in the following way: a list of dictionaries, in the dictionary the name of the function, the description of the function, the parameters dictionary where we have type object with the properties, the actual parameters, ticker, the type is string, it can also be integer, float, whatever. It has a description so the ChatGPT knows what this parameter is for, and we also require this parameter to be passed. It's not optional. And we define these functions like that here in different dictionaries. And then what we do is we map these function names, these names here, to the actual functions that we have above those here. And we then say, okay, we initialize a message list, which is empty in the beginning. We have a title, we get user input, and then what we do is we append to the session state the context. The first context is the user asks this question. Then we get a chat completion, we get the response. If the response contains a function call instruction, we get the function name, we get the function arguments, depending on whether this is a function that only takes the ticker or the ticker and the window. We define this or we define this arguments dictionary. We call the function, we get the response from the function. If the function was plot stock price, we display the image. Otherwise, we append the response message with the role function to the context, to the message list. We ask for a second completion, turning the function response into an actual response that seems human-like, so into an actual text response. We display that, and we add this response to the dictionary, to the context as well. And then in the end, if the response is not a function call, we just display the response. And here, usually we want to say stText error occurred, and then maybe the string version of the exception. So yeah, this is how you build a financial chatbot assistant or a stock analysis chatbot assistant. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting the like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.